You know how some people can read a whole page once and remember every detail, while others have to read it 3 times and still only catch the main idea? Or how some people can look at a math problem and just get it, and others feel like the numbers are floating in another language? We talk about learning differences a lot when it comes to reading. We talk about dyslexia, comprehension, language processing, and that's important. But what we don't talk about enough are all the other ways people's brains learn differently. There are people out there who can write beautifully, who are creative and articulate, but they can't tell you what 8 times 7 is without using their fingers or a calculator. There are people who can explain complex concepts but have no idea how long 15 minutes actually feels. That's not laziness or just not wanting to do the work. That's not a lack of effort. That's a different wiring. And it deserves the same understanding that reading challenges get. Every single brain learns differently. Some people are visual learners, others are auditory, and some need to move, to be hands on or do something with their hands to really understand concepts. There's no single right way to learn. There's only the way that fits your wiring best. The problem is that our education system wasn't built for that. It was designed during the industrial age when the goal was efficiency and uniformity. You sit in a row, you follow directions, you memorize, you regurgitate, and then you're graded on how well you fit the model. But the truth is, human intelligence has never been one size fits all. Psychologist Howard Gardner once proposed the theory of multiple intelligences, and it changed how we think about learning. He said intelligence isn't just logical, it's not just mathematical or linguistic, it's also musical, spatial, bodily kinesthetic, interpersonal, intrapersonal, and naturalistic. In other words, not everyone shines in the same classroom, but everyone can shine somewhere. And yet, when we talk about learning differences, schools still tend to focus mostly on reading. If you struggle with decoding words, you'll get help. But if you struggle with numbers, if you can't understand time, money, or math patterns and math equations, it's often brushed off as just not your thing. That's where we're failing a lot of students. Let's talk about the part no one talks about, or at least I don't hear about it, which is dyscalculia. Dyscalculia is a specific learning disorder related to math. It affects about 3 to 6% of the population, which means there are millions of people walking around who have trouble understanding numbers, quantities, and mathematical reasoning, and most of them have never even heard the word dyscalculia. It's not about intelligence. It's not about effort. It's about the brain's ability to focus and process numerical information. For example, someone with dyscalculia might struggle to remember basic math facts, even after tons of practice. They might have trouble estimating time, like how long 20 minutes feels. And they might be somebody who's late all the time because of that. They might mix up directions or sequences like left and right or the order of steps. and they might get anxious or even panicky when numbers are presented to them. Bills, measurements, clocks, or even calendars can be stressful. And what's wild is that schools almost never screen for it. We test reading early and often. We have entire programs built for literacy. But math disabilities, they slip through the cracks all the time. And the emotional toll is huge. I would know. When you grow up hearing you're just not a math person or you're just not trying hard enough, that shapes how you see yourself. And if you're surrounded by other people in your family, maybe your siblings who are really good at math, that can be huge as well, because it's like, why am I not good at it? It becomes identity level, a quiet shame that follows people into adulthood. You start internalizing and believing you're bad with money or bad with organization, when really you just never got the right kind of instruction for the way your brain learns. Dyscalculia often overlaps with ADHD and other working memory issues, which makes sense when you think about it. If your brain struggles with sequencing or retaining small bits of info, multi-step math is an actual nightmare. And then there's nonverbal learning disorder, or NVLD, which is another unrecognized condition that affects visual, spatial reasoning, social cues, and sometimes math too. So someone might be verbal, bright, expressive, articulate, but can't read a map, gauge distance, or solve a word problem because the brain struggles to interpret nonverbal patterns. So what does all this mean? It means we have to stop framing education around one kind of intelligence. It means different doesn't mean deficient. It means that the goal of education should be to unlock a person's potential, not punish them for not fitting the mold. One of my favorite frameworks is called Universal Design for Learning, or UDL. It's all about making learning accessible to everyone from the start, not as an afterthought. So instead of creating a standard test and then modifying it for people who struggle, we design learning environments that work for everyone. That could mean offering information visually, verbally, and experientially. It could mean letting a student show what they know instead of always writing it down. Or it could mean giving extra time, using manipulatives, or integrating tech tools that level the playing field. And that's not just for students with formal diagnoses. It helps everyone, because when we make things more flexible, more people thrive. But the bigger shift we need, especially as mental health professionals and educators, is this. Stop asking what's wrong with this student and start asking, how does this student learn best? That one question changes everything. I knew someone who thought she was stupid. She'd freeze during math tests, fail basic assignments, and get anxious every time someone mentioned numbers. But when she built things with her hands, she could see patterns instantly. When we switched her to visual, tactile learning, everything clicked for her. She didn't need some miracle. She needed a different doorway to understanding. And that's really what this episode is about, finding the doorway that fits your brain. When we talk about stats, dyslexia affects about 5 to 10% of the population. Dyscalculia affects around 3 to 6%, but most cases go undiagnosed. And only 1 in 20 schools in the US actually screens for math-specific learning disorders. That means millions of people fall through the cracks. People who could have succeeded, but instead internalized failure. When we ignore certain types of learning differences, we don't just limit academic growth, we limit human potential. So if you've ever said, I'm just bad at math, or felt embarrassed about needing things repeated, or found yourself learning in a way that doesn't match everyone else around you, this is your reminder. Your brain isn't weird or broken. It's just different, and different deserves understanding, not shame. The way we teach should evolve with the way we learn. And maybe one day, classrooms won't be about conformity, but about curiosity, creativity, and compassion for all kinds of minds. Thanks for listening. If you found this episode meaningful, share it with someone who's ever felt not smart enough, because odds are they just haven't been taught in their language yet. I'll see you next time. Bye.